All right, you're an investor or a wannabe investor. You want to continue to grow your portfolio, but you're considering whether to be an active or inactive, like an LP or a GP. What direction do you go? How do you approach this thing?
Two things. Number one, I think that you should speak on behalf of all the wannabe investors because you are a wannabe investor and a wannabe big boy business boy. And so that's the first thing. Second of all, maybe I'll explain what an LP and a GP is because you're just assuming people know that. And so
what'd you say? Big boy, wannabe big boy, something. So this is how. This is how This is how you know that Travis. So Travis wakes every day and he feels different levels of security. So we know today he feels pretty insecure. I think you should be embarrassed of that question, and everybody else listening is also embarrassed.
Everybody's embarrassed for me. No, look, good question. I think I can only speak on behalf of my experience over the last, 7 years. I mean, when I first started out in real estate, I was just buying my own stuff. Duplex here, small triple net office building there, single family house. And then you and I got into building a small boutique syndication company where we have a small group of investors that we raise capital from or we attract capital from, and they invest alongside us in mobile home parks. And then I'm also a limited partner. I've invested as an LP in a few deals. And I can tell you unequivocally, hands down, the deals that we control, the deals that we've purchased and we've raised capital for. Now I go in as an LP on our own deals, those have far outperformed than the limited partnership investments I've made. I can tell you now the asset class I've invested in are apartment buildings as limited partners, which makes me want to blow my freaking brains out. And we invest in the better asset class, mobile home parks. Gabe he does some JV joint ventures, partners with capital, but he's doing more triple net stuff. He's having a lot of success. So maybe it's just asset class specific, but I would say my LP investments are garbage right now.
I don't think it's asset class specific necessarily. I personally think it's more of an investment philosophy, and not so much only an investment philosophy, but a life philosophy. What do you want your life to look like? I don't know that I would say any of us love real estate. I don't think any of us are necessarily obsessed with real estate. We're obsessed and love what real estate has done and is able to do for us and able to do for other people throughout history, right? And what it can do for people into the future. And so it's not so much that I love real estate. I love what real estate can provide for me. I love the freedom it can provide for me. So there's an investment philosophy of what types of investments are going to give you the life you want. And some may say that if you're a passive investor, if you're just putting your money into someone else's deal, it's pretty passive and you can have the life you want. I've never been a passive investor. I've never put my money into someone else's deal specifically as an LP. I've had a handful of partnerships. All have gone well except for one. But the majority of my real estate I own myself. And for me, it aligns with the life I want. There's a level of freedom that I have, not having a ton of partners, not having to answer to a bunch of investors. And in a lot of ways, it actually feels more passive than if I was concerned about somebody else being in control of my deal. I get to control my real estate, so I get to benefit heavily from the ups, but I also don't have to answer to anyone, or I'm not responsible for anyone else's money when shit does hit the fan. Because real estate, even though a lot of times it's butterflies and rainbows, it's not always butterflies and rainbows.
So we jumped into active or passive, right? So how do you get into this game? I think it also depends on who you are and where you are in your life. I mean, if you're in your 60s and you have a lot of capital and you can this is with a caveat or an asterisk, if you can find the right operators who you like, know, and trust, and you also know the deal because you understand real estate and you understand their track record, then maybe you could be more passive, right, in an LP deal than you would if you bought your own property and tried to reposition and do the whole thing. I think that's true. The challenge is this whole passive thing, everyone's approaching it wrong. So for example, a doctor has $500,000 in extra capital, okay? And they go, I'm just going to invest in a passive deal. They see a deal come across and they're like, oh, I like that person, or I've heard that person on a podcast or read their book and blah, blah, blah. And then they just send the money. And I'm like, okay, you've got to understand who the people are, look at the track record. You also should understand real estate. Don't invest in things you don't understand, because you've got to understand if it's a good deal. And we've seen this in the run up where LPs They have no idea what's going on with real estate, but they trust this person and they put in the deal, and the LP and the GP is not who they thought they were. And the deal's not what they thought they were. And sometimes when both of those are the case, then you're really in a lot of trouble. So like I think the LP and GP model, I don't think it's a bad model. I think it's actually a great model. I mean, we do it, right? Syndicate, we invest in our own deals, but you can't at no time should you be putting your money into something where you don't know the people, first of all, and understand who they are, their track record, as well as know the fundamentals of the deal.
If you like what you're hearing so far and you are not making at least $120,000 a year with cash flow real estate or have millions of dollars in equity, come check out our 0 to 100 elite community. The link is below. Check it out. I also think, though, if your goal is to be free, right? If you truly want time freedom and you believe that real estate is the path for that, I think it's less about, I think when we say passive or active, it's not as simple as LPGP, right? Because I have a decent sized portfolio, and in a lot of, I guess, ways you could say I'm an active investor. I own my own deals. I run my own deals. I actually have an asset manager. I do have property managers on all my properties. But from a time perspective, I feel very free. I know people with a lot smaller portfolios that are less free because they're so active in the day to day, right? So a lot of it's also about setting up the right systems, putting the right people in place, right? So I rely heavily on great property management. I have multifamily properties. I have mobile home parks. I have triple net. I think I have maybe a couple of single family still. I have mixed use, commercial and residential, kind of a mixed use type properties. But it's the people I put in place. It's the property management. It's the type of tenants. There's all these things so that I can actually live my life. So in some definition, you would say, hey, I'm a active investor. But again, my life is very free because I had a very clear vision of like how I want to set it up so that it doesn't control my life.
Well, maybe the question wasn't framed up right, active versus passive, or is it limited partner versus GP? Mitch and I are also considered active investors because we're a general partner. We find deals, underwrite them, we asset manage them. But like you, Gabe, we've partnered with a very solid operating partner that takes a piece of the general partnership. So we're pretty passive in that. I mean, we maintain relationships with investors and we find deals, and we like finding deals just like you do. Like we enjoy that part of the game. We're like the deal, we love finding deals. So I know if the question is like, are syndications good or bad? Should you not syndicate if you're in raised capital? Or I think we all agree you should build a business to be passive. I mean, we're all about time freedom. So that's the mantra.
I think it's more about like, you need to know what the hell you're getting into. I don't care if you are an individual investor just buying properties for yourself, like it's just you, or it's just you and your wife, or it's you and a partner, or you're raising capital and you're investing other people's money, or you're putting money into someone else's deal. Like, you have to know what the fuck you're doing regardless. Like you need to learn. So like to Mitch's point, someone that has a bunch of capital and they just throw money into someone else's deal. I think, Mitch, you said on a past episode, like something along the lines of you can be a limited partner, but you shouldn't be limited in the knowledge, right? So you should still understand, what am I in? Whether you're buying your own deal or it's a 50-50 JV partnership, or you're one of 1,000 investors going in on a deal, or you're raising money from hundreds or even 1,000 investors, you need to understand the game that you're playing. What asset are you buying? What is the upside, but also what's the downside? What is my potential gain, but what is my risk? Do I understand fully what this investment is? And yeah, look, there's risk. There's risk to investing no matter what, and no matter who you are and what market and what type of assets you're investing in. But I think you need to get knowledgeable either way, whether if you're playing with your own money, other people's money, or you're putting your money with somebody else. Like, I think you need to have some level of knowledge and know what you're doing and where you're putting your money or your time or your energy before you just blindly invest. So there needs to be some level of activity.
I think that's right. I mean, I'm in a mastermind called GoBundance, like you are, Gabe, and I'm a part of a crew that all they are is limited partners, and that's what they do. It's called passive investing or whatever. The people that I notice in that group that have done the best with their LP placements or their limited partnership investments know what the hell they're investing in. They understand assets, they understand debt, they understand the fundamentals of real estate and structuring a deal. Like you said earlier, like the guy that's just like, oh, I'm a surgeon and that's what I do all day long, and I'm just investing in the same because he sounded great on a podcast, right? Here we are on a podcast. I think that those are the guys that suffer, and those are the guys that that struggle. And I think that's why a lot of high income people that are highly specialized, like surgeons, get their ass handed to them because they trust, they're busy doing what they do, and they just blindly give their money to somebody. They don't really have the time to learn. So I guess you would need a credibility through association. Like, I have another surgeon, or I have somebody that I highly respect, their knowledge is telling me this is a good deal and here's why, and these are the fundamentals.